What it do? What it do? Um, I hope everyone had a good holiday. 'Cause I know this is the episode after Thanksgiving. I hope everyone is, is safe. Staying. I mean, I know you're in Atlanta, so I'm pretty sure the weather is it cold in Atlanta or is it warm in Atlanta?
I mean, it's a little chilly, but for me being from Boston, it's not too cold to me.
Just hope everyone's safe, had a good holiday, ate some turkey, ate some mac and cheese, and now it's back to business, baby. So, Kyle, man, how you doing, man?
I mean, I'm good. Can't complain. The World Cup has been great. A lot of great games. My Celtics are still dominating the NBA, so can't
It's,
complain there either. It's a good all around.
yeah, I mean, we have the thing about sports is that it's great. You got a lot of great things happening. Other than my Alabama team out of the playoffs, but we'll get into that, of course. But yeah, that's the thing about sports. There's a lot going on, a lot of stuff happening all at once. I know I have a lot on the schedule, but I do want to talk about the World Cup because I know that's important. I know we are playing the Netherlands
Yep.
tomorrow at 10 a.m. So I know it's weird start times. I know 10 a.m. What there's like 6 p.m. there or 8 p.m. there, so it's kind of like 8 hour difference.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like 6 p.m. over there.
Got you. So yeah, let's just start. Like a lot of crazy stuff has happened. Uruguay is knocked out. Portugal's in. Um, didn't they win that game though, Uruguay, or did they lose that game?
The one today, Uruguay won, but they missed out because of goal differential.
Oh, golden versus see. That's the thing with a World Cup. You can win games, but if you don't put up the points, then it can just like the USA team. We tied against Wales.
Hmm.
We then we tied against England, which is kind of a win for us in a way.
Yeah.
It was 0-0. So we had to. So that I feel like we would have been in a better position if we would have beaten Wales.
Yeah.
Obviously, maybe probably tied with England still, and we would have been not had to worry about tying or losing as Iran to advance. But the hero of the game, Pulisic scored the only lone goal, tying the game 1-0, and we move on to the knockout stage. And now this stage is it's like penalty kicks, right? Extra time.
So now in the knockout round, yeah. So if you're tied after 90 minutes, you go to a 30-minute like extra session where it gets split up in 15-minute halves, kind of. Then you go to penalty kicks.
Got you. So I think after stoppage time, there's like 2 minute or not 2 minute, like two halves, right?
Yes, two
And
15.
then so if they don't score in that
Then it's
two
penalty.
15, then it's
Yeah.
penalty kicks. Right. So wait, how come it was like that for the first game? Because I know, well, obviously, yeah, never mind. It was a penalty. Never mind.
Right.
It
Yeah.
was a penalty by Bell. So never mind.
Yeah.
I asked how come they didn't have penalty shootouts? But yeah, like any like reactions from this World Cup so far. A lot of teams were favorites, and then Germany was a big one, really really big one. Who they're up there with England and Spain. They got knocked out. So any big shocking surprises for you in the World Cup so far?
Well, I mean, there's been kind of a couple of things that I've noticed so far in the World Cup. Going into it, I did a video on my podcast, kind of breaking down the group stage, and I told people to look out for the African nations.
No,
And
yeah.
as you can see, Morocco did well. Saudi Arabia had their moment against Argentina.
Mhm.
Senegal qualified for the knockout round.
Senegal, like what a shocking team. I never would have thought they would have made it this far. Like,
Well, I mean, when you look at African teams, it's kind of Senegal and Egypt that most people know because of Mo Salah with
Salah.
Egypt, and then Mane plays for Senegal, but Mane's not playing in the World Cup. But the African teams have done well. The U.S., Australia, teams like that, who I don't think there's a lot of expectations about them coming into this, but they've looked well enough and they've qualified to go on through. And I think the biggest thing is some of the traditional soccer powers, Germany, Belgium, um, I guess those two are probably the biggest ones. Really struggled in this tournament, and we might be seeing a shift where the teams that were willing to embrace youth and speed, pace, and that kind of thing might start becoming better teams during these World Cups instead of the traditional Germany and Belgium, especially. They were kind of disappointing where they played kind of one way, really boring soccer, and they just weren't able to score enough goals to make it through.
So, I mean, I appreciate you being a big soccer fan because, like, I mean, I do know like the surface of soccer,
Mm-hmm.
like, but the formations, where players can play. I mean, obviously, we talked off air that you were a goalie, so like the ins and outs of like the formations to an extent. So,
Yeah.
I guess I guess the big question is like for us, the USA,
Mm-hmm.
we're going against a powerhouse in Netherlands.
Yes.
Probably tougher team than England. I mean, I'm gonna say England could because they got Kane and like Sterling, but Sterling was kind of shut down in that game
Mm-hmm.
that he played. But the question to you is, being the soccer fan, what do we need to do to? Obviously we got to put up points, put up goals.
Right.
But that's easy. Better said, or what's that saying? That's
Oh, easier said than
easier said
done.
than
Yeah,
done.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, what do we need to do? Like, do we need to start off? Obviously, we need to start off the gate strong.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know our back line has kind of held against Wales. Like our defense, kind of like So yeah, just let me get your analysis on like what we need to do to prevail.
All right. I do think the U.S. will have a good chance against the Netherlands because this isn't kind of a traditional Netherlands squad. I will
Who's the
say,
famous player on there?
well,
Oh,
their top players are Van
is it
Dijk,
Van Dyke?
the
Yep.
center back. They have Gakpo up front with Memphis Depay. Those are the three you really got to watch out
Great
for.
name. Mhm.
Um, I would say compared to England, England probably has the more talented team. It's just that England doesn't really play up to its potential at times. The
Yeah.
Netherlands, you kind of know what you're going to get. They may not put a lot of shots on net, but they do kind of take advantage of the opportunities that they're presented with. So the midfield for the U.S. has been its most important aspect so far, and it's going to be the same way tomorrow against the Netherlands. We'll have to see what Pulisic. He said he's doing everything he can to play, but I mean he had like an abdominal injury, so we won't know until really game time whether he can go or not. But even if he
Yeah.
doesn't play, Aronson will play, and Aronson is a really good substitute because he's a guy who can be creative with his feet. Get into the open spots and make and take creative runs to get to the net. So I actually think the U.S. can win it,
Mhm.
but with the Netherlands being a pretty good defensive side, I wouldn't be surprised if this game ends up maybe scoreless or 1-1 and we end up with penalties. I could
That's what
see.
I'm saying. I really could see it come down to because I haven't really seen the Netherlands play because I've been school. I'm in school like and the times are weird the play time like the start times, but um, from what I've seen with the USA, think about it. I mean, okay, we were up 1-0 until we had that I guess crucial penalty call. I mean, Bale took the goal.
Mhm.
We couldn't tie it. So we lost 1-0. All right. So then I mean, our defense, that is saying something. I mean, that happened in with the 80th minute, 83rd, 84th minute. So that
Yeah.
penalty kick. So you kind of withhold. I mean, the only score they had was Bale, really, in my eyes. That's only one target. And
Yeah.
then the next game, England. I mean, we didn't let them score. They were the top heavy favorite. They're
Mhm.
supposed to score goals with Kane, Sterling.
Yep.
But I feel like and then 1-0 us. I mean, we really haven't really. I mean, so you make a good point where it's like two teams that yes, we can put up goals when we can when we get the opportunities, but we are fast and I feel like we can defend. Now I want to ask you this: like compared to all the other USA teams
Mhm.
that we had, like with Landon Donovan, Clint Dempsey, um, who was the goalie, the ball-headed goalie, Tim Howard.
Tim Howard. Yep.
Um, Where do you rank this USA team as far as talent? And we are young. We are younger than we were ever before we got McKinney, like what, 25, 26. I think Nat Turner, he's probably in his late mid 20s.
Yeah. Pulisic is
Um,
only
He's only
24.
24. So tell me, like, do you think if we do get past the Netherlands,
Mhm.
does this team with this obviously new coach too? You got to factor in with that too.
Mhm.
But he's held his own so far. So comparing the other teams prior to the World Cup USA teams, what have you seen? Like, and are we like, where do you rank us in like top terms of talent?
Uh, I mean, I know. I think it was like there was a squad that where I think Dempsey was kind of at the height of his, you know, talent with the U.S. That I feel like that group was probably better than this one. But I do think in terms of optimism going forward, I feel like U.S. fans should feel probably the most optimistic about this group than even that group. And that I only say that because this group, the style that they play is more conducive to international style. So when they play in World Cups and stuff, they'll be able to kind of hang with some of these better European nations. Whereas I feel like some of those teams with Dempsey and Donovan, they played more of a style that fit MLS back then, where they were kind of defensive minded and try to get out on the counter attack. And then when they played internationally, it didn't really go well against certain European squads. This team plays more of a, high press, play through the midfield. The only thing that this group needs to probably surpass that team is they need a guy in the middle up front. They've tried Josh Sargent up there. They have Ferreira up there. Um, they have Ricardo Pepi, who's not on the squad, but he's probably the most talented guy for that position, which is why I think this group will probably do better in 2026 than even what they're doing right now. But if they can solidify that middle, the number 9 spot, your middle forward, I think this team could be probably the best generation that the U.S. has seen.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree. We got some young, talented guys. People who have played overseas too. I mean, Pulisic played at Chelsea.
Yep.
I played in the Premier League. Got McKinney played at Juventus with Ronaldo. So I mean, we got
Yeah, they have a bunch of others. Ream and I think Aronson play at Fulham. Tyler Adams plays over in Europe. So
yeah. So that, I mean, that Premier League. I mean, that's a tough league. I mean, with
yeah.
if I mean, even post Ronaldo. I mean, I know he's well. I guess you would say. I mean, he kind of like left the team. So I guess you would say post Ronaldo.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows where he's gonna go after the World Cup? But
He could be in the MLS. I will say
hey,
that. I'm gonna throw that out
I
there.
heard. Oh, I heard Saudi Arabia gave him a deal, but yeah, I do see.
Yeah, they're
I mean,
offering
that's
like
like
over
300,
300 million.
300 mil. That's like, yo, like, let me get that money, man. Like, you don't need that money, bro. Like,
I mean, to Saudi Arabia, they would just use him
I
for.
mean, if he converts that money, like, well, now he has his currency, like, I think in pounds, right? His currency right now. But if he converts that stuff to like US dollars, he would be like a billionaire. But like, he probably is a billionaire. And all this, he don't need that money. But yeah, you're right. I do see him going to maybe a FC Miami or like probably the Galaxy.
Probably not Miami, especially if they're saying Messi might go to Miami. I feel like those two would never play together because
that would be something else, man.
Well, they have like a little rivalry going. So I feel like Ronaldo, if he went to
well,
MLS,
I mean,
he goes to another.
in a sense, wasn't it? I mean, it was neck and neck like Ronaldo and Messi, but Neymar was in there too. So like they partnered up. I mean,
yeah,
so
that was different. That was
yeah.
different. Ronaldo's a different personality. Ronaldo wants to be head and shoulders the guy. You can see when he plays. If they don't pass it to him, he rolls his eyes. He gets frustrated. But when he scores goals, it's a spectacle because he does his, Suey celebration and all that. So,
that's that whoo, like that. What?
Yeah, I mean, that's just him making sure everybody knows he scored, and all eyes are on him.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, we got a big game ahead of us on Saturday. I'll look at the next topic. So what we got here. I guess we could talk about just like the I guess the MLB.
Hmm.
Just going to that. My first topic was like, where do you see I know we talked about this on the Big Three podcast.
Hmm.
But where do you see Judge landing? Leaning more toward the Yankees, and then what other dominoes will fall after Aaron Judge's decision?
Uh, I mean, I know Dylan brought this up on Big Three. I'm kind of starting to lean towards him, where I feel like each day that goes, my percentage of him leaving continues to climb. I just think that San Francisco is going to make a really hard push for him. And it's going to be whether or not Judge wants to just stay in New York because that's what he knows, or go out to San Francisco. And I mean, in that division, you only really have to deal with the Dodgers, whereas in the AL East, you got to worry about the Rays, Blue Jays, Red Sox, and now even the Orioles are starting to show signs of being competent again. So I mean, I still lean towards the Yankees, but I would not be surprised if he goes to the Giants. And then in terms of the other question, if Judge leaves the Yankees, then we're going to see the Yankees go, full court press on a guy probably like Bogarts or uh, Correa, some big name. The Yankees will obviously use the money they missed out on with Judge and then throw it at somebody else. And I think it'd probably be Bogarts because I could see them trying to steal Bogarts from the Red Sox because we know, how that would how that would hurt the Red Sox even more. So that probably would be the next domino to fall after Judge if he were to leave. If he stays, I don't know, probably one of the pitchers like Verlander.
Yeah, I heard that. I saw a report that they're planning on moving Donaldson and I think Hicks, so that can free up some money. Donaldson, he's getting old.
Hmm.
He didn't really show much. He had a couple home runs this season, but it's not like I feel like we need someone young. I feel like DJ LeMahieu would take that third base spot. I mean, I know the only deal the Yankees did do were IKF and Rizzo so far. IKF, Isaiah Connor Falefa. I mean, we still have Torres. I mean, I heard he's on the market. Maybe I heard the Mariners are thinking of looking at him. But I mean, if we do not let them hit him go, I think I see him at second base. But I feel like with us, we need if we like Dylan asked me on Tuesday, what is the plan if Judge leaves? I mean, I couldn't answer that because I mean we need pitching. I mean, I know we have Cole, Nestor for starting pitchers. Severino. But I feel like we need more relief pitchers because see if our if a starting pitcher is tired, we need someone who can withstand the rest of the game. But I don't know. I don't know who would fill that hole with the Judge if he leaves. But
I mean,
like I said,
they could fill it a couple of ways. Either you go out and get an outfielder, but I don't know what outfielder that's really out there who could be on that level.
Benintendi, but he's more like a
Benintendi's more like a 20 home run guy, high batting average. But in terms of a guy who could hit 40, 50 home runs, I don't know if that guy's out there that plays in the outfield. So they would probably go Benintendi and then go upgrade one of the infield positions. That's why I said, a guy like Bogarts or Correa, one of those shortstops, I could see them bringing them in and just kind of figuring it out that way.
Yeah, like you did mention, the winter meetings are next week. So I mean, a lot of things might be snow falling after those meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, that's where all the owners just come into one big area and just talk about players and stuff. So I'm pretty sure Aaron Judge's name is gonna be the top name that comes out of their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the Yankees are motivated to sign him. I think they're just waiting on other deals and then they're trying to match that. I know I'm not. I saw a report saying they did make a deal for Aaron Judge that's one of the largest contracts. I think it was 8 years, 300 something mil or something 350.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I feel like if the Yankees are really all in on Aaron Judge, they should really, first make him captain, he will be the only captain after Jeter to be named the Yankee captain. So I mean, I would say throw him the kitchen sink, give him the captain. I mean, he said before the season started, I mean, when a reporter asked him, "Hey, do you see yourself being a Yankee for your career?" He was like, "I mean, I mean, I was always seeing myself in pinstripes. There was a legacy. So obviously, with him, it's like building a legacy wherever he goes.
Hmm.
Family. There's a lot of factors here that when Aaron Judge is mine, he has to factor in. But I feel like if he wants to win titles, Yankees are the prominent team. I mean, I know you're going to say, "Oh, what about this year's playoff?" Da, 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 da. But I mean,
I mean, he hasn't won with them yet, and
no, you're right. You're right. But I feel
they,
like they
they
give him the
keep
best.
bringing in guys to win, but it just hasn't happened. And he's got to wonder, would can this group put together a squad that can actually win it in an American League where the Astros aren't going away? The Red Sox, you assume, will be back soon. The Blue Jays are up and coming. The Rays are still there. So it might be a tougher road in the American League, at least to him. Not to say the National League doesn't have great teams either, but it all depends on what he values, whether it's being home or at least near home, or the money and the stage that New York is.
So, like, do you see like if okay, say like he signs worst case scenario he signs with the Giants. Do you
Mhm.
see them being an immediate playoff contender team? Because they have other holes to fill on that roster too. So, I mean, Aaron Jones,
True.
with anywhere he goes, I mean, he's gonna give him their team that boost. But I mean, like a team like the Dodgers, like a team like the Giants. I mean, I mean, do you see yourself getting to the playoffs with the Yankees or the Giants? Like, I mean,
Well, I mean, if you look at the National League, the
right.
real threats, the Dodgers, you got to say the Padres. I feel like the Cardinals, Braves, Phillies might be five teams you really worry about, especially as a Giants fan. The Mets have been up and down, mainly down, but they were up last year. Um, the Cubs, I mean, Central Division, I guess the Brewers, you could say, have been kind of up there, but the Giants have put together championship teams. So Judge has seen that in his career in New York, that the Giants have won a World Series, have been in contention for other ones, have put up like 100-win seasons, I think, a couple of times. So he knows that front office there knows how to build a winner, where unfortunately the Yankees haven't done that yet. So,
Yeah, I mean, like it all remains to be seen, like where they go. I mean, obviously, me being a Yankee fan, I do want to see Andros and pinstripes for at least eight 8 to 10 years, maybe. I mean, as the other Yankees fans would like him, but I mean, I do bring up a point where, like, as days go, yeah, I know the winter meetings are next week, but the days and days have gone by, and Judge has not signed with the Yankees. But I mean, I think he's
right,
just weighing his options right now. So, I mean,
right, and
as he
that's
should
that's his
that
right.
as a free
That's his
as
right
a
as a
free
free
agent.
agent. He should do that.
Um, I mean, it's kind of like Lamar Jackson. He's in like a prove it kind of year deal, like just like Aaron Judge was. Like they couldn't get a contract done in time for Judge and start of the season.
Yeah. Hmm.
Prior to him getting the 62 home runs, people didn't really have doubt in Aaron Judge, but nobody knew he was going to get 62 this year. But you know, by playing and improving and getting those home run and getting on home runs list over 62. That only boosts up his price. Just like Lamar Jackson, the games he does play well, the games he does win, his market goes up. So it's kind of like that, So they couldn't get a deal done before the season started with Lamar.
Hmm.
He's on his last year of contract, his rookie contract. I mean, now NFL's more not lenient, but more where they can sign Lamar or they can franchise tag him for 2 years that's not the worst case scenario and keep him. But obviously, they want to get that deal done. They want to solidify that position, just like the Yankees. I mean, they
Do
want
you
to.
do you still think the Ravens want to? I'm starting to question it.
Well, I heard Roman just got offered a contract or an offer to coach Stanford, so he might be gone. So that might we might bring in someone else for offensive coordinator. So that could excite Lamar, and that could open up doors for like getting receivers. Because obviously the way Roman's always is set up, the receivers don't want to play for Roman. I don't think it's Lamar. Lamar has the arm. He has the capability to put the ball in the player's hands. It's just that the play calling is just not like what receivers want. I know, not Robinson. Robinson has stepped up. I know Jackson had that nice catch.
Hmm.
Um, so, we'll see where that goes. But I mean, I don't know.
I mean,
I feel like
he can do what Judge couldn't do. If he could win a Super Bowl,
yeah,
that'd be better than what Judge did. I do think at least Judge betting on himself, he had a historic year,
yeah,
so
right,
that
right.
worked in his favor. Lamar's year so far has been kind of up and down for whatever factors that you want to point to. Uh, I know you said Roman's leaving.
Well, I don't know if he's
I
leaving,
know.
but he's like it's like
Well, yeah,
rumored
yeah.
or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, I know you want to probably talk NFL later, but I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, should we can dive into it right now, man?
Okay. Well,
Next topic.
my thing with Lamar is when I watch him play, it seems like he's comfortable throwing the ball over the middle. But outside the numbers towards the sideline, I feel like he struggles there. Now that's something where, you bring in a guy who maybe emphasizes that in the offense. Lamar works on it in practice week after week in the offseason. Maybe he gets better at it, but I think for right now, defenses can game plan for Lamar by playing the middle more and forcing him to throw outside. And I mean, he's not the only one with that issue because there's a lot of quarterbacks that struggle throwing to the outside the numbers because there's not a lot of room out there. You have to be a little bit more accurate out there. So if Roman does leave, I kind of wonder if Harbaugh would bring in a guy who's more like Roman and just continue the way that they're going now because maybe in Harbaugh's mind, this is the way that best suits Lamar and Baltimore as a whole as to be a winner, or will he just go completely off script and bring in a guy who's going to want to come in, spread everybody out and try to go high powered offense?
I mean, that's the best case scenario. Go high powered offense. With the way Lamar can like extend plays.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously he was like 210, I think. He weighed 210 like a couple years ago. Now he's like 230, so he gained some muscle,
Mm-hmm.
which is good for obviously he had a couple injuries, like a hip injury this year, and like I think maybe like this sickness I think this year. But the way he can extend plays, why not just if he can roll outside the pocket, act like he's gonna run it, but then see a high caliber wide receiver out on the run, hit him. Like that's what I'm interested to see who would be a candidate for like if Roman leaves, like who would we pull in, someone internal or someone at outside, like when we brought in a Quebec from the Broncos
Mm-hmm.
a couple years ago when Joe Flacco was the quarterback. So
Right.
but like we saw what he did with Joe's arm. So we need someone who can. I'm not saying Roman doesn't do a good job.
Quarterback though. That's what I'm saying. It's like if you wanted to compare Lamar to the other scramblers in the league, Josh Allen, Mahomes, Hurts, guys like that. I would say just looking at those three, in terms of accuracy, I probably think of Lamar as the worst in that group. But maybe that's just because it's not something they do a lot, and if they started doing it more, maybe he'd get better at it. Because right now their offense is kind of, short, quick slant routes or whatever, or Mark Andrews curl over the middle, stuff like that.
Play action.
Yeah, like methodical drive down the field, which is why they don't score a lot. But would we see an issue where if they tried to spread it out and have Lamar throw the ball 40, 50 times, would his accuracy issues be magnified? Or would he just have so much fun in that kind of offense, it would unlock uh, maybe potential in him that we haven't seen in him yet?
I mean, I guess my answer to that statement is I mean, look at Kansas City. I mean, it's Andy Reid as the head coach, him and me as the offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, post Tyreek Hill, I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster, kind of a big body receiver. Nico Hardman. I mean, their receiving core is not. I mean, other than Kelsey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at what Bieniemy is doing with the receivers that they have. I mean, they're not as. I mean, their receiving core. I mean, I think the Chiefs' core is better than the. I think the Bills' core is better than the Chiefs right now. Obviously, they got Diggs, Gabe Davis. But look what they're doing. I mean, I think that Bieniemy is letting Mahomes be Mahomes and let him air it out, air attack. Even with this receiver that they do have. So I'm saying, yeah, if you get an offensive coordinator that can, I'm not saying that Greg Roman can't unleash Lamar Jackson's arm because he has made a couple plays where he did throw it for long distance. We saw the play against Jaguars last week. I mean, and he can throw the ball, but I mean, if you can get a coordinator that can kind of really unlock his abilities as a thrower, get some receivers that will entice Lamar and the Ravens. I mean, I think we're only a wide receiver. I mean, I know Bateman got hurt. I mean, he was probably our number one. He can't really stay healthy. He came into the league with a groin injury. And I think he had an ankle injury, I believe. His recent one. So, but I mean, they are 7-4. I mean, so it's not like have a losing record,
right.
And their schedule is kind of in their favor. Other than most teams, we got the Broncos, and then I think the Falcons and the Steelers, and then I think the Browns. And I think Broncos. I think Browns next. I think the Falcons, Steelers, and I think we'll say Steelers twice still, and the Bengals last to end the year. So, I mean, the only winning team we played is the Bengals. So, I mean, I guess that's in our favor. But like you said, if Lamar can, can advance deep into the playoffs, I mean, because our defense is looking good too. With Quan Smith, we're getting Marcus Williams back. Dobbins coming back. Obviously on the offensive side, Ojabo's coming back. I mean, Ojabo's we're going to see him play. So, I mean,
my thing is, when it can throw on your secondary, I will say that. I know a lot of people, hear Humphrey and names like that, and they're like, "Oh, that secondary is pretty good." It's like you can throw on them. Where Humphrey is tough is that he knows how to punch the ball out and cause fumbles and all that.
Oh yeah, and Kyle Hamilton too. We got him too. So.
Right, but I think the quarterbacks in the league who take Joe Burrow. He's got Jamar Chase, Higgins, Boyd, Hayden Hurst. I'm sure when Cincinnati plays Baltimore, he's not worried about the Ravens secondary. Roquan Smith, yes, he's going to want to know where he is on the field because he can rush the passer. So that's kind of been my worry in terms of the Ravens is that.
So you're saying teams are not afraid to throw against the secondary?
Not at all. I'm just saying the teams that have a top tier quarterback have good enough offensive weapons. I don't think they look at the Ravens secondary as, trying to think of secondaries of years past, like Legion of Boom. People were afraid of that secondary because of all that they can do. I don't think they look at Baltimore that way. Because with Humphrey, you could throw a double move on him and he'll bite up every once in a while. You can burn him. Hamilton, kind of the same. And
so I mean, it's only his first year. I mean, it's a learning.
Well, I was gonna say Hamilton. I wouldn't throw Hamilton in there because, like you said, he's still early in his career.
And then Marcus,
and people know what Humphrey's about.
And I think Marcus Williams coming back, so that's going to help him in the secondary too, because he was leading in the league in interceptions at the start of the season. So we're 3 off the bat. So that's going to be a good help. But I guess you do make a point where like last game, our secondary was getting blown up. Yeah. But I mean, I think when it comes to playoffs, like playoff football,
Mhm.
I think it comes down to obviously putting up points. Um, defenses, stifling defenses, um, and just consistency. And I think that if the Ravens this can be like the 2013 team where I'm not compared to Ray Lewis or Avery at all. I'm saying
Right.
like as far as like a defense standpoint, defenses win games, defenses win championships. So if the defense can limit other teams from scoring,
Hmm.
um, and that is a big addition to Roquan Smith because he's kind of like that Ray Lewis, kind of like that middle linebacker, kind of like that tough, hard nosed linebacker that who can get picks too. He can drop back and lurk in the middle with picks and stuff. So he's kind of like a utility linebacker in the center middle linebacker. So with Queen in the middle, uh, and I think that we I know we haven't like proved that we can last and we can advance in the playoffs, but I feel like this year is our year to advance more in the obviously with wherever we are in the seeding at the end of the year. I think that we can maybe, like you said on Tuesday, we can maybe go up against the Titans in the first round, or like I don't know. I mean, I'd rather see the Chiefs or Bills in the second round, possibly, because I mean, obviously we were destroying them, the Bills, but then they came back on us. I mean, we blew the league, but
I
I'm
mean, that,
saying
that, that
I'm
is
saying,
the issue.
but I'm saying in a game where it's like that, where we all blown out teams.
Hmm.
We never really got blown out this year by a big margin.
Right.
So I feel like if it's a different game where we are up against the Bills or big against the Bills and our defense can hold them and we can try to find a way to put up points, anything has happened or is possible. I feel like my philosophy is in the playoffs, everyone has 0-0 record in the playoffs.
Right.
Anything can happen. Hey, the Chiefs can get upset. The Bills can get upset. The Eagles can get upset in the playoffs. Who knows? I mean, anything. It's not like it's kind of open. Where in terms of like that playoff team. So
Mhm.
um, I don't know. I feel like but I think my problem right now with the Ravens is like how I saw last game against the Jaguars. How we weren't. How we couldn't really put up a lot of points. We were in the red zone a lot, and we just couldn't like. I know Andrews dropped the touchdown pass. I think Demarcus Robinson dropped one too. But we were in the red zone at least like 6 or 5 times during that game, and we had to either kick a field goal or kick a punt. Um, so it shouldn't come down to I guess that team. I mean, all props to Lawrence for playing as well as he did. But the game should not have come down to a field goal. We should have blown out Matt by like 20, 25 points. I think the way, but Lamar had a forced fumble. I know Gus Edwards fumbled, so really it's not really all on Lamar on that game. But obviously he had a couple bad throws. But like you said, the secondary got blown up a couple times.
Hmm.
Think about it, 4th and 8. If the Jaguars don't convert on that 4th and 8, is the game's over. To be honest, like it was like a minute left in then that touchdown. It was kind of I don't know how you think about that touchdown. Like was that a touchdown? That one where the Jags, it was like 1 foot in and like his shin.
Yeah. Yeah. He was in
I don't know
Be-
about that, man.
because it's. I mean, most people, oh, 2 feet in. Yeah, I get it, but the shin, knee, elbow, you get any of those in, that counts as 2 feet. He got his shin down before the other, foot came out of bounds. So it was a touchdown. Um, it was just a really good throw because the coverage on that wasn't bad. It was just
It
that,
was tight. Yeah,
yeah, it was just placed in a really good spot. Um, but kind of why I said, the secondary, you can throw on them. If you look at the games, over the season that they've blown leads, that's kind of when the other teams have been like, okay, we're abandoning the run and we're just going to throw. And they find open spaces a lot of the time. The Ravens defense, their front seven is pretty good.
right.
So if the game's close or not and teams are still trying to run the ball, they're fine. But once they abandon the run and just strictly go past, that's where you see the Ravens kind of struggle. And, you talked about them getting into the red zone and having to settle for field goals and all that. that's another issue I have with them because that just keeps teams in the games longer. Where if you get to the red zone like 3 times in your first 3 possessions, at most you should have 21 points, three
Right.
touchdowns. But with the Ravens, you'll watch them and they'll get like 9 or maybe 13. And
Right.
I feel like that's where in the playoffs issues like that become more magnified.
Yeah,
Because,
that's where like I'm worried about. Like it,
yeah,
like we should, like you said, if we convert on those red zone plays, like you said, like early red zone play, like first, second quarter,
mhm,
first half, it should be 21-zip. If the defense can, if the defense can like stop them from scoring.
right.
So that's the only like gray area I see in the Ravens right now in the playoffs.
Mhm.
Because I watched the game, like we were in the red zone a lot. We just couldn't, And I think we had a cup. I think Lamar rushed it in once. I think in that game was on a red zone, but the throws. I mean, obviously the throws. I mean, DeMarcus Robinson dropped one. It's not really on Lamar. It's not his fault that the receivers can't catch the ball. They were right there. That's a rare drop by Mark Andrews.
Mhm.
He's like a Kelsey for Lamar. Like, it's just like Kelsey is for Mahomes. He has, heavy hands. Like he can catch the ball. So that was really a rare drop from Andrews, and that pass should have been caught. But I feel like this schedule that we have is a little easier than other teams. I feel like that'll be in our advantage.
Mhm.
I feel like
It should be in your
it
advantage.
should be like I said in prior shows. We should have beat the. I mean, I had the Jaguars or Ravens beating the Jaguars
Mhm.
because on the line, the money line, they were the favorites, like 3 point, 5 point favorites. So that's a game that we should have won. I do agree. But I mean, I feel like we have to look for the next look at for the next game.
Mhm.
And after the Broncos, man, I mean, I know they have their issues over there in Denver.
Mhm.
So I'm not. I think it's an empty bank, so that's another good thing. It's at home. But yeah, I definitely want to see where we land in the playoff standings. Because like if we are like at that, I think we are. Before I say anything, I think we are in the conference. We are.
I think you're the 4th seed right now.
Like 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth. We're fifth, and then Tennessee right. Well, Tennessee is like we have the same record. That's crazy, yo. That's wild. So we're 7-4. We're 3-2 at home. They're 3-2 at home. We're 4-2 away. They're 4-2 away. I mean, we're 2-0 in our division, and then Tennessee they're 3-0 in their division. So it's kind of like neck and neck. So I feel like if we beat the Broncos, we should be in that 4th spot, depending on who they play. Tennessee plays. I think they play the Eagles. So I don't know. It's gonna be a tough game. So I guess let's just dive into since we're in NFL, let's just go over the scores of like last week. I know your team played the Vikings and the Bills and Lions played, the Cowboys Giants played, and then the Vikings Patriots played. So just give me a rundown of what you thought, like what your reactions were.
I mean, the Cowboys took care of the Giants. We saw the Cowboys are definitely a better team. The Giants look like the team that I said I see them falling out of the playoffs, and I think they're still in it right now, but I fully expect them to fall out.
Do you still stand on that? Like stand on that statement?
I have no problem saying that.
Are you afraid of that to Freddie?
I feel like I left Freddie.
You ain't afraid,
I
man?
mean, I said it on the show yesterday,
Yeah,
so I
okay,
think
yeah.
Freddie was watching. Yeah, I'll continue to say that. I just don't see a path where, because my mind goes to for the NFC. I think you have to get at least 9 wins to get in. Looking at the Giants' rest of the schedule, I could see maybe 1 win in there, so they end up as an 8-9 team. I don't think that's good enough. I think the Commanders will get in ahead of them. The Seahawks are out right now, but I think the Seahawks get right back into it, and I see the Giants being on the outside looking in. Lions and Bills, it was a good game, but what we kind of see with the Bills is that recently, their offense will click in spurts, but it hasn't. They haven't really put together a full game yet. And we even saw that last night against the Patriots, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But
Oh man, that game
they
was.
let the Lions hang around in that game, and the Lions had every opportunity to win that one. But a win is a win, so they got the job done. The Vikings Patriots game, really good game as well. Came down to that Hunter Henry catch, no catch. I thought it was a catch, should have been a touchdown. They waved it off or whatever. But if the touchdown was allowed to stand, that changes the whole trajectory of the rest of the game, because later in the game when the Patriots got into the red zone, they went for it on fourth down because they needed a touchdown. Whereas if they had that touchdown, they'd kick the field goal to tie the game. But that's kind of how the NFL works. So you just move on from that. I mean, it was a good win for the Vikings. A lot of people don't trust the Vikings record, and I understand that. But in terms of a primetime game, Kirk Cousins played pretty well. Justin Jefferson kind of showed that if you don't think he's the best receiver in the league, you might have to start thinking about him being number one right now.
Hey, Jefferson is. I mean, he's awesome, man. He's awesome.
Yeah, but most people just argue, whether it's Tyreek Hill or
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp, although he's hurt. Hopkins, Adams, Diggs. There's a lot of guys who are putting up pretty big numbers. So it's whether you place Jefferson first, you have him second, third, whatever, however you want to rank those guys.
Right. So the Bills beat the Lions 2025, Cowboys lost 2028, and Patriots lost 26-33. Let's go Sunday night game, Packers and Eagles. Eagles beat the Packers 40-33 by, I think, a touchdown. Just the fact that Green Bay was in that game was like shocking, because I thought that Eagles should have, again, one of those teams that should have destroyed the Packers. I mean, even though they put up 40 on them.
AJ Brown had a fumble late that on a drive where the Eagles looked like they were about to score. I know he was trying to get extra yards. He only had one hand on the ball. They ripped it from him. So if they finish off that drive, the score probably looks a little bit more favorable to the Eagles. Once again, they got a win. They may not have played their best game, but they still came out with a win. So it's all good to me.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that was the Sunday night game. Let's just briefly go over the other games. I mean, the Ravens obviously lost to the Jaguars 27-28. Our Rams lost to the Chiefs 16-10. Not surprising, because the Rams are just garbage this year. Saints lost to 49ers 13-0, 49ers. Browns, which we'll get into because Washington is back this week.
Yep.
Browns played the Buccaneers, won 23-17 in overtime. Bengals beat Titans 2016. Dolphins beat the Texans 30-15. Jets beat Bears 31-10. Falcons beat Falcons 19-13. Panthers beat Broncos 23-10, 25-24 Chargers. Raiders 40-34, which we all saw that play where the Seahawks linemen run onto the field to stop the play. I don't know if the ref saw that. I don't think the ref did see that at all. I don't know if that could have been a big step into the game and they could have stopped the play, whatever. But Josh Jacobs had like 300 yards rushing. And then to top it off, the Monday night game, or Sunday night game, 30 against the Eagles and Packers, 40-33. Then the Monday night game, I know Dylan said on Tuesday that he made a good point that, a game that the coach could have won, but due to Jeff Saturday's, time management skills, which, I mean, it's just understandable. It's only, second game into the league, coming off of the ESPN analyst. Yep. So that's understandable. But that's where you can make or break a loss or a win, the time management. You using that clock. And Dylan said he did admit that in the press conference that, I did bet on the play clock. or play calling, time management. But Steelers, I mean, even though Steelers did win, they're in my division. 24-17 they won. So that brings us to the week 13. I mean, the first game of the week. Your team. I, I say your team got dismantled by the Bills. I would say I was trying to find a word to.
I mean,
I mean, they didn't get dismantled, but
they didn't.
the times that I've seen them on TV, like Mac Jones is going with 3 and outs. He did. I did see a clip of him yelling at, I think, Patricia.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, oh, I'm not gonna say it on air, but he was like, the running game is not working, or whatever. He was pissed.
I mean,
yeah,
the offense has an identity crisis, and what I think it is I feel like Patricia and whoever else is involved in the offensive game plan, they don't trust the line enough against certain teams. You know, Buffalo's a team that likes to blitz and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think they trust this current offensive line to hold up against teams like that. So they go into those games and they always do they go run heavy. It's a lot of screen passes and quick outs because they don't want to expose Mac Jones to just being back there and bludgeoned to death. Mac Jones is frustrated because he knows his ability and he understands that Ramondre Stevenson, good young running back, but I think in Mac Jones's mind, if the running game's not working, then Patricia and them should scrap it and let Mac Jones kind of just throw the ball over the field. So I think he thinks the offensive game plan isn't really tailored to what he can do best. And maybe he thinks there's a confidence issue there with Patricia and those guys and Mac Jones. So I don't have a problem with him getting frustrated by it because, I mean, I would be frustrated too. But, I mean, I know on pregame pickskin I picked the Patriots to win, and I kind of said it on there. That was me being a homer because I just wanted them to win.
Right. Plus, it was a division game too. So
yeah, but in my mind, I know Buffalo's the better team, and I expected Buffalo to win in my mind. But I just said it because, like I said, Patriots fan, I wanted them to win. Defensively, they could have won that game. Just offensively, right now, it's just not clicking. And, you know, a lot of Patriot fans today were, you know, upset with the game last night. And then to me, it's just like, we need to be realistic. Coming to this year, once again, on my show, like way back before the season, I did predictions. I predicted the Patriots to be 8-9 wins, 10 on a good year. And, you know, currently they're 6-6, so they're pretty much on pace to be 8-9, 9-8. So they're pretty much playing to what I thought they were going to play to based off of, you know, Patricia is an offensive coordinator, the talent that they have. This is a middle of the road team. So, you know, you just got to ride it out. You got to assume in the offseason there's going to be some changes. You know, if McDaniels loses his job in Oakland, pretty sure he'll probably just go back to New England and be the offensive coordinator. If not, maybe they bring in Bill O'Brien from the college ranks, who was the offensive coordinator for Brady for a few years, and get like an actual offensive mind in there. I think they'll be fine next year. Plus, you add in some draft picks where I got to give Belichick a lot of credit. People have kind of killed him for some of his draft picks of years prior, but I feel like the past couple of years, he's done a really good job in the draft. So I always looked at this year as just a talent evaluation year and look more towards next year as a year where they could maybe contend for a playoff spot. So whatever they do this year doesn't really bother me one way or the other. Right, but that was a good win for the Bills, I will say. You know, going on the road to New England late in the season, good win by them.
Right. That's good analysis. I mean, with you being a true Patriots fan, that's, you know, you being honest, and that's what it's all about, man. Um, so let's just dive into the just like Tuesday, let's go to the main games.
Hmm.
So we'll start off with the Sunday night game. Cowboys Colts. I do see the Cowboys winning that game with ease. The Colts are coming in the game 4-7-1. Cowboys 8-3 with that good defense and Dak Prescott at the helm. I know Ezekiel had a good game against the Giants. A couple of good runs.
Hmm.
Um, so I definitely see them winning. They are 10.5 point favorites in that game. Do you agree?
Yeah, they're clearly the better team. I mean the Colts. I mean the Colts offense is pretty tough to watch. They're kind of one dimensional, so I just think the Cowboys defense will overwhelm them. So it should be an easy win for the Cowboys.
The Monday night game. Oh, I guess this is a good conference division game. Saints and Buccaneers. I man, it's a tough one because I mean I would say Tom Brady and the Buccaneers will win, but they've been struggling.
Hmm.
They lost to the Browns in overtime. Oh man, it's a
I
tough
mean
one.
that Browns team is probably more talented than
I mean they are 3.5 point
are right
favorite.
now, and I mean like I said, the Browns have talent. Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper's played really well the past few weeks. What Njoku, I think he's still playing if he's not hurt, but they have some offensive pieces. The Saints, on the other hand, Dalton is what he is. Jameis Winston clearly isn't ready to come back, otherwise he'd be playing, I assume.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Bucks get the win, but I
I think it's
don't.
gonna be a low scoring game. I think.
Yeah, I'm not going to predict the Bucks to blow out anybody right now because they have their own issues that they're working through. But I think they get another close win.
Yeah, I do agree with. So yeah, I mean, I'll give the edge to Buccaneers on this one by a small margin. I would agree with the money line 3.5 points because like Vegas doesn't see them boning out either.
Yeah.
So I guess we can just go over this quickly. The other games. I know the Broncos Ravens. I know Baltimore's 9.5 point favorites. Who do you see in that game winning? You see Ravens winning in that game?
The Ravens should win it, yes. Um, I do want to see what Russell Wilson does after the lineman get in his face and
I
everybody
mean,
see.
nobody. I mean, like I heard nobody showed up to the party. His party. So that's what I heard. Like I don't know. That's a report I
To be
saw.
honest, if you were invited to a party by Russell Wilson, would you really go? He doesn't see. He seems like a.
Like a Loki kind of guy.
I mean, he
Like
seems.
not in the limelight, kind of like not like low profile.
Yeah, he seems
Like,
like he has like a corny sense of humor. He,
so you're saying if your boy Russell Wilson and be like, "Yo, Kyle, man, I like what you're doing on the podcast. I like you support me, man.
yeah.
What's your address? What's your email, man? Let me send you an invite. You wouldn't take the invite?
I mean, I'm not an NFL player, so I'd be like, all right, cool. Because I figure there's got to be some type of exposure for me as just a little guy with a little podcast with Russell Wilson. But for his teammates, one, they've dealt with him all season. We've seen all the frustration, whether it's Jerry Judy, Hamler, um, that lineman who I can't remember his name. So especially him throwing a party after a loss like that. Yeah, some of them are probably like, man, I don't want to see him right now because I'll probably say something to him. I mean, it's a bad look for sure, but the way that the Broncos season has gone doesn't surprise me that not all of them showed up.
Right. So I mean, I guess we can do our locks, our upsets. I mean, I was gonna go down every game, but I don't want to take up too much time. So we're gonna
I mean,
do
some of the games you don't really need to talk about.
yeah. I mean, so we're just do our locks. A lot. I do. Oh, well, before we get to our locks, like you said, Watson is back. His suspension is uplifted.
Yep.
He acted at practice. He did speak to the reporters. He was. I mean, I didn't watch all of it, but he at the start of it, he said he wasn't gonna answer any legal questions regarding the accusations because his team, I guess, was right there. And I guess he was told by them to not report on anything like that. I know the reporters were trying to get something out of him, but he was like, again, I'm only here to answer football questions, which I mean, he should. He's a quarterback, you know. Um, and the story is he's. I think the game is at the Texans.
Yep.
But I'm kind of like not mad, but confused as why the prosecutors want to bring in the 10 accusers to the game. It's like creating more stories.
He had to expect that, though.
You're right, but damn.
And the accusers probably wanted him behind bars, for sure, at least the prosecutor. So seeing him being able to go back to his livelihood and play football, it's obvious that they just want to make it a show for them to be like, remember what he did to us, so boo that man or whatever. And it's just like, I mean, Tuesday I did say I wouldn't be surprised if he has a big game. And, Dylan was saying, like, with it being in Houston, it's probably the worst place he could be. But
Right.
I think with the circus that's kind of surrounding all of this, his team is going to go out there and probably want to play their best game for him to show their support. Now, I don't know. I'm not a Browns insider. I don't know how all the players feel about him, but I'm sure they can at least look at it and say, he doesn't deserve to sit there and play in front of the accusers who were just there to try to
Like bury him.
make some type of story out of it. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he puts up big numbers. I don't know how the Houston fans will react because I don't really know.
It's gonna be really weird. Yeah.
Yeah, because their team's not good, so I don't know how the fans even feel about that. Maybe they get like a really big crowd who, goes out of their way to cheer on the Texans. I don't know, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's some Texans fans that are supporters of Watson. I mean,
Sure, yeah.
there's tons of them that are supporters of him. Some people that
I
still
mean,
love
he
to support
was
him,
the
but
best quarterback that they've
had in
their
years.
history. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. So yeah, I guess we can just do our upsets and locks of the week.
Yep.
If you want to go first, man, I don't have my locks yet.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of keeping the ones from Tuesday, so it's a different audience, so they may not know, but I
Right.
like the Bengals as my upset over the Chiefs. Chiefs are a 2-point favorite, but I just think with Chase and Mixon coming back, that Bengals offense was really picking it up before those two got hurt. So I expect them to pick it back up. And the Chiefs secondary is one that you can make plays on, and I think Burrow has a pretty good game against the Chiefs. My lock was... What was my lock? There's a couple I could go with, but I'd probably go... I'll probably take the Browns over the Texans.
Browns.
Even though,
Okay.
Watson could be rusty, but I just think the Texans have basically given up on this season by starting Kyle Allen. Not like Davis Mills is any better, but that's clearly waving the white flag, trying to get a top pick next year. So I think the Browns win that game easily.
Okay. Let's see. I think I had on Tuesday my lock was the Ravens and Broncos. They were 9.5-point favorites. The game, like you said, they should win.
Yeah.
Should be a lock game. They're at home. That's a big reason why they're on the money line. But just that their talent compared to Broncos' talent, is I think it's better than the Broncos right now because they got their issues with Nathaniel Hackett and all the problems that they have. So I had them as my lock. After my upset, I think I'm gonna go with the Falcons, man. I can see the Falcons beating the Steelers. The Steelers are 1-point favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Steelers are not that good. I know they beat the Colts, but they're not a good team. Um, let's just
Yeah.
be fair. They just played a crappy team. Um, I mean, I could put my faith in. I mean, Mariota for this game. Um, let me
I
see.
will just say the one thing to watch out for with your pick of the Falcons in that one is I could see Najee Harris having a really good game.
Yeah,
The Falcons have their issues defensively. Tackling is still an issue for them. Also, I could see Pickett having a pretty good game. He's starting to come on a little bit here. Um,
yeah.
so I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers won that one, but I could see, especially with the game being in Atlanta, why you would pick them. That's a game that could go either way.
Well, I can. I was either going to do that one, or I was going to do Lions and Jaguars. I feel like Lions can, bounce back,
Hmm.
get that dub against the Jaguars, or Jaguars are 1 point favorites. So and that was another game I
Those
had.
games with the line where it's one are tough because it kind of seems like Doug Peterson has the Jaguars playing better now, kind of more like how they played very early in the season, and then they went through that middle stretch where they couldn't beat anybody. But now it seems like they're playing well again. The Lions, the Lions are tough at 4-7 because offensively they can put up points certain games, and then other games they struggle. So it kind of depends on which Lions and which Jaguars teams you get on that day. So
Right.
it's another tough one, but I mean, yeah.
Um. Yeah. So let's just dive into. So I'm trying to see if I should just go with that. From an upset. Let me see how you can end. Looking down the list. I don't really see any other upsets like that. I mean, I do.
I mean, there's a couple. I guess to kind of maybe steer you one way or the other. Now, if you're not a full believer in the Commanders, you could say that the Giants, this might be one of those games that maybe they could win. The Dolphins Niners, if you don't believe, Jimmy G
Oh,
could maybe
that's a
hang
game right in front of my face.
with the Dolphins offense. Maybe the Dolphins could pull the upset there.
You know what? I'm gonna go with Dolphins because I mean because the Niners did put up like 13 against the 13-0. Um, um, so yeah, I'm gonna say Dolphins. I'm gonna say Dolphins. I mean they got Tyreek Hill, they got
It's
Chubb.
it's gonna be a prove it game for the Dolphins.
Yeah, for
Go
sure.
up
That's
against
why
the
this
defense.
last stretch of games for every team is crucial down the road to see where playoff seeding. This is why it's so crucial for Miami and the Ravens and other teams that want to make that put their seating up higher. So yeah, this is a proven game definitely with the Niners in town. So, but I think I'm really safe to say that my upset would be Miami against the Niners. I can confidently say that because Tua kind of Tua kind of I mean other than the concussions he kind of, and other than that he's had a good year.
Yeah,
Still got Tyreek Hill, Waddle. So yeah, I'm going with them.
you could almost argue if he doesn't get the concussion, the Dolphins could be 10-1 right now, maybe even undefeated. I don't know, but
That's a hot take. Yeah, I mean you're right. You're right. Um, all right, so that's it for NFL. Before we jump into NBA, I guess we can just briefly talk about the college football playoff seedings.
yeah,
Before we jump in, that'd be the last topic because I want to touch down on that Jerry Jones on LeBron thing. So that's probably going to take a lot of the time, or the rest of the time.
hmm
So let's go over the college football rankings. Let's go to so ranking. So they put Georgia number one, 12-0. Michigan outlasted Ohio State last Saturday, 12-0. They're at two.
hmm
TCU, another undefeated team. So top three undefeated teams are in the playoffs. Then
yep,
USC with 11-1 record at number four. Ohio number five, and then six Alabama, my team. Tennessee's right behind them. In KCU running up the top 10. So talk to me, man. I know you on Tuesday we're gonna go off if you saw Alabama in the top five. So
the
um,
committee made the right choice keeping Alabama out of the top five. Now,
So go ahead.
them sitting at 6, I'm okay with. I could make the argument that Tennessee and Penn State should be higher than Alabama, but I think that you're kind of splitting hairs there. So I'm okay with if they wanted to put them at 6. I probably would have either left them at 7 or maybe even dropped them to 8. Um, I mean, then the rest of the 10, Clemson and Kansas State, I don't really mind that either. But I was glad that they didn't pull, what they might have done with the SEC, where Michigan, Ohio State go against each other. They're both undefeated. The team that loses, they don't drop them completely out. They could have dropped them to 4, but I think USC and TCU deserve to be in the top 4 right now. And I think Ohio State does deserve to be in front of Alabama. Alabama, it's tricky to kind of pinpoint them because yes, you could look at their 2 losses and say, well, they lost on the last possession to LSU and Tennessee. That's valid.
I mean, yeah, that's facts.
Right. But looking at the wins on their schedule, though, it's like, where's the quality in that?
I mean, but the only thing I can say about that is like it's not Alabama's fault. They don't pick the schedule.
But yeah, but if we're trying to judge them in terms of the top 10, the top 4 for the playoff, it's like we saw them struggle against Texas early in the season.
Yeah, I mean, that was a good
They
game.
looked undisciplined, and they kind of looked undisciplined all year. Then we saw them with their first test against Tennessee lose that one. Then they get a second opportunity against LSU to kind of bounce back from the Tennessee loss. They lose to LSU. And then the past couple of weeks, which is kind of one of the reasons why I say that the way the SEC teams make their schedule can hurt them in instances, is the last 2 times we've seen Alabama, they beat Austin Peay and Auburn, which unfortunately didn't really do much for them in the committee's eyes in terms of building a resume to warrant being in the top 4. And then now they're not in the SEC championship game, so their season's over. There's really no reason to put them up in the top 4. That's kind of...
So there's like no chance that Alabama can get to the playoff. Or some games
that I tried to think of ways that they could get in. Like, so Georgia's a lock no matter what. I don't care if they lose
Georgia's,
to LSU.
They're up there. Yeah, they're...
I think Michigan beating Ohio State, they're a lock. Even if they lose to Purdue, unless they lose like 63-0 to Purdue, I think Michigan's a lock. TCU, USC. Those are the spots you're looking at as an Alabama. TCU has to play, I think, Kansas State in the Big 12 championship game. Kansas State's a pretty good team. They're ranked in the top 10. If TCU were to lose that, for their first loss, I don't really know how. I don't think the committee is too strong on TCU. If TCU loses that game, they probably fall out. USC probably has the toughest game out of the top 4 because they have to play Utah, who's ranked number 11, has some decent wins on their schedule, so it won't be easy for USC. But if only one of those teams lose, I think Ohio State just jumps back into the top 4 because their one loss would be to a potentially undefeated Big Ten champion Michigan, who's ranked number 2. So you can't really kill them that much for losing to just that one team. Now, in terms of Tennessee, Penn State, the teams behind them, their seasons are over. So the only one you really worry about is Clemson, but there's no way Clemson's jumping from 9 to 4. Not a chance. Clemson, probably one of their weakest teams as well. So I just think Alabama's going to be stuck on the outside looking in no matter what really happens, unless TCU, USC both get blown out. Then the committee's kind of forced to move Ohio State and Alabama up as 3 and 4.
Right, and then also Purdue Purdue's with Michigan, but that shouldn't really factor in.
No, I think Michigan's a lock no matter what. Unless, like I said, 63-0 Purdue blowout, and then they're like, "Oh, what's going on here?" But yeah, Michigan's fine no matter what.
Let me see. Yeah, you like USC is a 3 point favorite against Utah, so I mean it's not that high.
Yeah, because Utah's a really good team. It's just that um, they just have three losses on their schedule. Looking at it, they lost Florida week one, which was whatever. But then the two losses were to number 18 UCLA. UCLA is not a bad team, and then they lost to Oregon, who outside of the Georgia, you know, beat down in week one, Oregon's had a really good season. So you could kind of look at Utah as being in a situation almost like Alabama, except for Utah does have the one they gave USC their one loss already. So if Utah can pull off the double and sweep USC, that looks really good for them, but they're just too low to really do anything about that now. But I just think Alabama they'll be in a New Year's Six Bowl or whatever, but I don't see them being in the playoff picture right now.
That's why I'm so happy that the football expansion is happening.
Yeah, but
Because
it's not for 2 years though.
well, basically this year and next year, and we're
Yeah, this
good.
year, next year, under the current standing, and then 2024 go to the expanded playoff. Yeah.
And teams that's like 12 teams.
Yep. They'll be the Power Five conference champions, then the highest ranked conference champion from one of the other conferences would make up your sixth. Then the other six teams will just be like the six highest ranked teams in the rankings at that point. So it'll probably just be a bunch of big name schools with one smaller school in it, which is fine.
Which is like for so how does anyone know how the playoff ranking like the playoff format is like it's kind of like the NFL where like the top team has a bye or
It would be,
since there's more teams.
I'm trying to think. So 12 teams they're going to do. I think the top two teams get a bye, I believe. And then like three will play 12, four play 11, 5, 10, 6, 9, 7, and 8. Those would be your first round matchups, and then the top two teams would join in the second round.
Okay. Yeah, it's gonna be open up the door for a lot more competition in the playoffs. Is much needed. As I said, there's 4 teams in the playoffs that are locks, so that opens up doors for
Just
the
for new matchups, and I don't
yeah.
understand these college football fans who are like, "Oh, four is perfect." Actually, I prefer just the top two. It's like you don't make any sense because nobody wants to sit around and watch every year where the end game it's always Georgia Alabama somehow meet up in the title game. We're done with that, and then the other two teams is usually Ohio State or Michigan and some random team, or actually probably Clemson most years, or Oklahoma or something. You open it up to 12, you're still going to get a bunch of big name schools like Penn State, you know, Florida State might be in play now, LSU. So you're still going to see really good teams go up against each other. And yes, you get the one school that's not in the Power Five, but so what? The point is, you might get an upset here or there, which is going to be really good for college football. But I don't know. College football fans are
But yeah, I
weird
mean,
like that.
yeah,
I go back and forth with them all the time, so I get it with them.
yeah. I mean, I'm excited to see how the playoffs like format like plays in 2024. Um, but like any last thoughts about for the college football before we move on to the NBA?
No, I'm just glad that it's coming 2024 because I think the latest that could have came was like 2026 or something. I'm glad they didn't wait that long. So
Right.
I'm just happy to see it.
All right. So this is the top. This is the conversation I've been waiting to pour out. Obviously, you've seen him in the group chat in the Sports Empire group chat that I was kind of like happy that LeBron kind of put the Lakers media in general on not on blast, but like kind of shut the media up. Like first, like this, I just want to hear your thoughts because you didn't really say much in the group chat when we were kind of like talk. Like you didn't really put in your opinion in like the LeBron. So I want to hear your
Yeah, I was kind of just seeing where the conversation was going.
So I guess my question is like, do you agree with what LeBron did and how like he was trying to talk and then the reporter kind of cut him off. He was like, wait, like I don't want y'all to talk. I'm gonna talk. Like so first, I mean, like Gene said, I mean, obviously Jerry Jones, he's an NFL owner. He's not in the NBA. But like my point was like a Kyrie situation, like when race, or well, I'm not sure race was even involved in the whole Kyrie. It was just an anti-Semitic video that was. But when it's like something like a race that's involved,
Mm-hmm.
and like after you tell your side of like the like of your perspective, I'm gonna show the fans, the viewers, the history of this photo. And I think then I'm gonna read the Dak Prescott statement. He came out today and kind of like spoke about Jerry Jones. So yeah, just like let me just get your thought process on this whole Jerry Jones, LeBron James, because if
Yeah.
LeBron really didn't make it a put it in the limelight, then would we be talking about it?
Well, my thing is, people have talked about the Jerry Jones thing because I've heard Shannon Sharp talk about it. I've heard Brother to Another. I don't know if you've seen that show. It's on like Peacock. They talked about it. I
Yeah.
mean, CNN even talked about it. So people have talked about the Jerry Jones thing. And my thing is, you got to realize this was what 57, I think, in Arkansas. So I'm not surprised to see Jerry Jones in a picture from that time period because that's what was going on around the world, especially in the South. Now, Jerry Jones made the claim that, he wasn't, I guess, participating, he was observing. And I think Doug put in the chat, like, yeah, we would have to see video to kind of see whether or not that's true from a picture.
Right.
He could say he was observing, and then you look at the picture, it's like, well, yeah, he's kind of there watching, so we don't know what he's doing. But even if you look at a movie like Remember the Titans, the scene where, they come back from camp, the black kids are trying to go into school, and all the white kids are just like, oh, get out of our school. It's like, that's just the time period. So is it a big deal? Yes. Is it surprising? No. I wouldn't be surprised if you took if you found photographs from a bunch of people around Jerry Jones' age, they were probably in similar situations. Now, in terms of, I guess, LeBron talking about it, because I remember Gene saying, like, the NBA media or whatever isn't obligated to talk to LeBron about Jerry Jones, whereas
I mean, yeah, but
LeBron was
Where
a
Gene is
teammate of
wrong is
Kyrie
like
Irving,
they
so that's why
right,
he can, yeah, they ask him about that. I
right,
mean, that is kind of valid, where if I were to get somebody's point of view on the Jerry Jones situation, I know LeBron is an outspoken guy, so if I asked him about it, he'd have a point of view. But the first person I'd probably go to, you kind of said Dak Prescott. I would want to know from a person of color within the Cowboys what they
right.
think about it because they have to work directly for Jerry Jones. Whereas LeBron, it's like, yes, if I ask LeBron about it, he'll give me a soundbite because LeBron pays attention, and that's one of the things where even looking at the Kyrie situation where his platform kind of got him in trouble for certain things. When you look at LeBron, you don't really see a lot of that in his history. Like when LeBron speaks out on stuff, it's usually pretty credible. It's current, so it's something that people are really talking about amongst their friends or whatever. And he's very careful in terms of what like people know about him and all that. I mean, the worst thing you could say about LeBron's career was the decision thing from when he went to Miami. Now, for an athlete, if that's the worst thing I can point to in terms of you dealing with the media, you're doing pretty good based off of what we've seen from other athletes. So, but yeah, I mean, with LeBron, if he wanted the time to kind of just speak his piece, and if the media was trying to cut him off or whatever, I have no problem with an athlete being like, "Look, I know it's a press conference, we go back and forth, but just give me my soapbox for a minute." I have no problem with that. Um, but then, I guess just to tangent a little bit, it kind of seems like with some people that they're kind of looking at the Jerry Jones situation as almost as a way to try to almost give Kyrie a pass for what he went through, and it's like I wouldn't go that far. Grand scheme of things, both guys did something wrong. Um, like I said, Jerry Jones, 1950s, Arkansas, doesn't surprise me that he's in a photo like that because that's just how it was in the
Well,
South.
like the first thing, okay, so like yeah, I do like your side of things, like your perspective. So, before I get into like the history of the photo and like what Dak said,
Hmm.
like when you said that like when you just stated that like when people want to compare it to like the Kyrie Irving situation, it was both kind of bad. But then there was a report saying that Amazon does not plan on taking the taking the movie down. I don't think it was Bezos who said that. I think it's one of the
Yeah, I
higher
saw
up.
that. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and I went on Twitter and they were like, okay, so wow, so y'all not gonna like, which I agree they should attack Amazon for putting it on there, but their view on it is
I
they
still
wanna
say that
they
doesn't really
they
that
wanna
that
they
doesn't
said
matter to me though.
they said they want to keep it on there for like for people to have different views on it, like for
Yeah,
people who have
because
different takes.
if I wanted to watch the film, I could watch it. It's my right to either watch it or not. So just because Amazon makes it available, that doesn't mean it's like Amazon's fault that Kyrie watched it or didn't watch it, but tweeted about it. That's not Amazon's fault. That was Kyrie's decision. So the same way, if Kyrie watched it, kind of kept his thoughts to himself, and then tweeted out something like, "Wow, it's crazy what I saw in this movie." That'd be one thing. But he just tweeted it out and left it as that. That was the issue. Whether Amazon made it available or not, that's fine, because if I go to a library, there could be books in there that could be controversial, but I don't have to check the book out. That's not the library's fault for making it available. It's a piece
Right.
of, I guess, art, I guess they would call it, and it may appeal to some, won't appeal to others, but it's just available for anybody who wants to. So the people who want Amazon to like pull it, and if Amazon decides not, the same way if Amazon decided to pull it, I wouldn't be like, "Oh my god, they're stupid for doing it." But them saying that they're not going to pull it, I'm perfectly okay with that.
So for all the fans that are that are gonna be hearing this or they're here viewing this right now, this is a good little history of the photo that we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's just a little brief history. So Jerry Jones, the owner of the Cowboys, I think it was before the holiday Thanksgiving, a photo surfaced on the internet of a young 14-year-old Jerry Jones, just in a white crowd of just white people, and I guess the photographer from the Washington Post, like I guess, posted it and pinpointed Jerry Jones in the picture, and it was a photo taken in on September 9th of 1957. This is from the Washington Post. The history of it on the photo. Jones was one of the few dozen white teenagers who confronted a group of black students outside the doors of North Little Rock High School in Arkansas. The photograph of the encounter, taken by a photographer from the Associated Press, it wasn't the Washington Post, um, centers on two white people, or white students, one laughing, one with a cigarette in his snarl, staring down one of the black students. Shortly after the photo was taken, the black students were pushed back down the stairs to the street. Their effort to integrate the school rejected by force, at least for the time being. And in the background, a few feet away from the Starling kids, you can see Jerry Jones. The post Jones memory of the day centered on concern about getting in trouble. After all, his football coach had warned players not to be involved shooting or should not be involved should there be any unrest when the new students arrived. Jones clearly ignored that warning. Um, so, considering what this is, and I quote from the article: consider what we're looking at here. Though photos from the time period in which the United States was confronting an endemic racism through the civil rights movement are fittingly enough in black and white that can have an anonymizing effect. So we're talking about like Jim Crow era, 1957. Still like post-slavery civil rights. The past is never dead, as Folger said. It is not even past. Jones is 80 now. Ruby Bridges, the little famous black girl photographed in the company of the U.S. Marshals as she became the first black girl to integrate in school in New Orleans, 1960, is barely of retirement age, and many other Americans are old enough to have been part of the same history. So this is where I'm getting it from the Washington Post article is this that okay, so Jerry Jones said that his coach reportedly said to his players to not even be a part of this event.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Jones, 14. Obviously, we all have curious minds at that age.
Yeah.
Which is I don't see a problem. But if a coach tells you to not like go to an event because he knows it's going to start trouble, and knowing that after that photo was taken, that those black students were pushed back, and seeing Jones' track history as being the owner of not hiring black players, I don't think he has any African American male or female in his owner's realm. Not that I know of, but I know he hasn't hired any black coaches. I think it's McCarthy, Jason Garrett. As far as I know, my views on it is like, yeah, he is 14. I get it. He was trying to be curious, but if someone tells you not to partake in something like this, knowing that the civil rights movement is still going on,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that black players, African American players, even this beyond this athletes, humans are being like police brutality by the cops. Players couldn't, eat with their teammates. Couldn't go to the same restaurants. And knowing that just that Jones was in that photo, it just speaks to his track record as a owner of, and like you said before, he has black players on the team who that work under Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
And him, and I don't know, I just feel that this is a big deal because obviously, but like Douglas said in the group chat, we need to see video, some more evidence. But in the article, it said that the black players were pushed back, so obviously they weren't allowed to be where Jerry Jones in the vicinity of the area.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was a reporter for like the Cowboys or just an ESPN reporter, the first question I would be looking into is, what were the stances of his perspective on the situation, and what was the perspective of the white players around him? Like, were they just there to just like make fun and jokes? I mean, I guarantee that was not the case because, I mean, obviously white people were very, very violent in that time towards African Americans. So I'm pretty sure they weren't there just for the hell of it. I mean, they're there to cause some ruckus. And yeah, I mean, I did do the math. It was 65 years ago, so it's not. It does seem long ago, but it's not that long ago. That slavery. I mean, obviously slavery was like 400 years ago, somewhat. But civil rights. I mean, we're still dealing with racism. We're still dealing with police brutality. We're still dealing with African Americans being somewhat unpaid still compared to white owners. And I don't know. I just didn't sit right with me knowing that he hasn't really hired a minority, not even just African American, this minority leader in a position of of high power like that. Now, so let me read you Dex. I know we both want to read Dex statement because he is. Well, I think he's biracial. I think he missed that
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
in his post. So let me just go back to that. Um, oh, I think it was in. If I can find it, Yahoo.
Well, I'll just say real quickly while you're finding that,
Yeah.
I mean, to make the correlation between, the photo and Jerry Jones' history of not hiring minority coaches or whatever, that's kind of a league-wide issue.
You're right.
I will say,
but just that team in general, like the Cowboys.
Yeah, I was
like,
say, like, I don't know in terms of like assistant coaches and position coaches, like how many of those positions have gone to minority players. And, I don't pay attention to the Cowboys like that.
Right. Me neither. Because I noticed like a track record of white coaches and just, just
Yeah, head coaches. Yeah, because I know it's. I think he hired Barry Switzer. He hired Jimmy Johnson, McCarthy, Parcells.
I mean, why hasn't he hired Brian Flores? Why hasn't he hired
I mean, Brian Flores.
No, well, I'm just saying this in general.
Guy.
Well, yeah. I'm saying it's like there's so many other good coaches out there that are minority that should. Well, I'm not talking about. I'm talking about just like the staff overall. Like I don't know if it's. I'm not sure. Like you said, I don't look at the Cowboys like that.
I find it hard to believe that he would not have had some minority position coaches. I feel like you look around the league, even if it's not a black head coach, because okay, I'm a Patriots fan. Robert Kraft, he's never hired a black coach, but I mean his only coaches have been Pete Carroll was I think his first hire, and then it was Bill Belichick. That's basically the only coaches he's ever hired. So yes, he's never had a black coach, but he's also only had 2 coaches under him.
Right.
But you look at the position coaches he's had. Troy Brown, Gerard Mayo, Brian Flores started off as a Patriots coach, and some other guys. I can't remember all of them, but like in that, yes, is that solve the problem of head coaching in terms of black candidates? No, but at least putting them in those positions should get them in the line for the head coaching position. Now, whether the owner hires them or not, we'll have to see. Because, like you said, there's plenty of them around the league right now. Flores, who probably should still be the Dolphins coach, but we know the Dolphins organization, whatever. Leftwich, Bieniemy. So there's plenty of them out there. We're going to have to see in the next coming years how many of those guys get those jobs. And I also have been one of those who think when it comes to the Jerry Jones generation, where a lot of those guys own a lot of these teams, their mentality might be one way, but as that generation kind of moves out, and you see owners get kind of younger, I feel like the issues might start looking better, because I think as the younger generations get in, so basically the way that the younger generation looks at race or whatever is clearly more open than how the older generation looks at it. So, I mean, it's not necessarily the best thing to say, like, wait it out, it's going to get better, but that might unfortunately be where we're at, though. I don't know.
I'm talking the whole time, the muted. You really pinpointed just the fact that there are coaches out there that deserve that a higher role. But I did find that
on the league to start hiring them.
Oh yeah. So obviously we can be more. This is and I quote from Dak Prescott, I think from today or yesterday. Obviously we can be more empathetic and give grace to one another regardless of race. I think he's talking about Prescott or Jerry Jones and LeBron's statement of him kind of like focusing on the picture. So obviously we can be more empathetic and give grace to one another regardless of race. from the times we've come from to where we are now. Thinking about the growth we've had, that's who I am, how I think. Optimistic. I mean, a guy who is completely biracial, black and white, it's easy for me to speak on race on one side or another. And I don't always, how do I say this? I don't know if I'm fully processed it all the way, honestly. I think whether LeBron's talking to the picture, that's on Jerry Jones to address. In the same sense, it's 65 years ago and how times have changed. I mean, look at the man's resume since then, right? As I said, I give grace. I think that's a conversation and a question not only for him but for you guys and how y'all feel and how accountable y'all have been in covering and discussing the disparities and difference in resume. Um, as I said, I'm here for growth and I'm in giving grace and trying to make this world a better place. That's who I am at my core and what I believe in. Unfortunate things come up from the past, pictures, and they show how far we've come. But at the same sense, they're a reminder of how short of a time that was ago. That wasn't that long ago. I mean, that wasn't that long ago that we were all sitting at different sides and we weren't together. But as I said, I wouldn't be here if it weren't we're still that way. So I believe in grace and change. Those are questions for Jerry for y'all, honestly, that I don't have quite the answers for. So yeah, I mean that Prescott hit it right on the nail. Like I said, 65 years wasn't that long ago. Like he said, like I said, like there was times where like we whites and blacks were separated, and that's cool. It's kind of interesting to see from his side because he is biracial. To hear from both sides of the story from his family's perspective. But I mean, he kind of hit every angle. Just how Jerry needs to step up, take accountable, and answer questions about. I don't know if he has yet talked to the press about the picture or whatever, but I mean that hits the nail on the coffin right there. Like that's. I mean, he said that as I guess where he's coming from is like if it wasn't for Jerry Jones being the owner, maybe he wouldn't be the quarterback for the Cowboys. Obviously, Jerry Jones and them signed his contracts, so maybe that's why he's not really saying much because he wants Jerry Jones to he's not going to speak for Jerry Jones.
Well, I feel like he's probably coming from the position that he's probably seen Jerry Jones' interaction with black players. Right. So he probably sees it's not like Jerry Jones comes down there and, makes them dance for him or something. So he sees that he may not have, racist heart or something like that.
Right.
Now, because I mean, from the outside looking in, I know Jerry Jones speaks highly of Prescott. He spoke highly of Michael Irvin. He loved Michael Irvin. He loved Emmitt Smith. So, players, yes. Now, coach hiring, that's another thing. And, I mean, we could say that could be any number of issues. Whether it's maybe he just hasn't liked any of the candidates he's seen. I mean, can you doubt him if he said that? Because it's not like, I mean, who's the worst hire he's probably made? I mean, Jimmy Johnson won titles. Barry Switzer, pretty good. Mm-hmm. Bill Parcells, legendary. I mean, the Jason Garrett one, that's probably one you'd point to and be like, why him? But then he loved Jason Garrett as a player on the Cowboys, so when it came time to give him a shot at the job, maybe that's why. And McCarthy now. You can say McCarthy maybe struggled last season, but if you look at it this year, McCarthy's been pretty good. So I think even as Doug said as well, he was like, it's Jerry Jones's team. He can run it any way he wants to, and it's his right to do it that way.
Right.
So it's a catch-22. And then one little thing I want to add too is that I think the interesting thing is, to kind of take it a little bit outside of sports, is that with Dak Prescott coming at it from a biracial angle, and I think looking at numbers and all that, interracial couples and stuff are becoming more and more the norm. So we're going to have a future here soon where you're going to have a lot of biracial athletes and stuff. And I wonder how that's going to shape ownership and all that kind of stuff. As like I said, the older generation kind of moves on. Will we just start seeing like biracial people being put into these positions, and then that maybe can change some of the like numbers in terms of white coaches versus minority coaches.
And we did forget that. Well, we did forget that thing that Jones hated the player for kneeling too with Kaepernick too. He took a stance on that too.
Well,
He
that was a political thing
but
because
yeah, it was.
Jerry Jones was a Trump supporter, so that whole thing was just that was
Right.
more political than anything.
But I do want to read this LeBron James like press conference statements too. Like he said, I got one question for y'all, for you guys before you guys leave.
Mhm.
I was thinking when I was on my way over here, I was wondering why I haven't gotten a question from you guys about Jerry Jones' photo. James said, but when the Kyrie thing was going on, you guys were so quick to ask us questions about that. So James, in the press conference at the time, said, "Me personally, this is like his statement about Kyrie when they asked him. Me personally, I don't condone any hate to any to any race, to Jewish communities, to Black communities, to Asian communities. You guys know where I stand," James said. I believe what Kyrie did caused some harm to a lot of people. And he has since, over the last, I think it was a day or two ago or yesterday, he apologized, but he caused some harm. And I think it's unfortunate. So he came out in the press conference, I think yesterday, the other day. But it seems like to me that the whole Jerry Jones situation photo, and I know it was years and years ago, and we all make mistakes. I get that, but it seems like it just was buried under like, oh, it happened. Okay, we just move on. And I was just kind of like disappointed that I haven't received that question from you guys. I didn't know at the time he the monumental event really that was going, or this is Jones. I didn't know at the time the monumental event really that was going on. Jones said, I'm sure glad that we're a long way from that. I am. That would remind me too that just continue to do everything we can to not have those kinds of things happen. James grew up. James said, I had to sit out on the Cowboys, man. There's a lot of things that were going on when guys were kneeling, guys were having freedom of speech and wanting to do it in a very peaceful manner. The organization was like, if you do that around here, then you will never play for this franchise again. I just didn't think that was appropriate. Jones 2027 or 2017, I said, sorry.
Mhm.
When many NFL players began kneeling during the national anthem in gesture of solidarity for then quarterback Colin Kaepernick, peaceful protest against police brutality, said he would not tolerate any of these players disrespecting the flag. There's a lot of things that obviously LeBron James is stand on, like with the whole kneeling and everything, and this his track record of him as an owner of him like.
As I said, the kneeling thing that was
Oh, it
political
was political, but still, it's like,
because
you're
he's really close with Trump. Trump made the same statement, so he was showing his support for Trump. Now, Robert Kraft, I believe, is known to be friends with Donald Trump as well, because Robert Kraft talked about it. When he lost his wife, he said Trump was one of those people who was really nice to him, so they became friends over that. And Robert Kraft heard Trump say the same thing, and Robert Kraft's response was, "Hey, players, you do what you want because it's your right to do it." So, two different people, both supported the guy, had two different stances on it. And one, we've seen with Robert Kraft, he's one of those guys who likes to empower his players to voice their opinion. That's what Matthew Slater, Devin McCourty, those guys will speak out on issues all the time, and Robert Kraft is fine with it. Jerry Jones, on the other hand, I feel like Jerry Jones just wants to control everything, and we've seen that with the Cowboys. He wants to be the biggest star. He wants to be. If Jerry Jones could, he'd put on a helmet and pads and play quarterback for the Cowboys right now, because he just wants the limelight. And that's kind of one of the things I said is one of the biggest issues with the Cowboys is until Jerry Jones takes a step back and lets people It puts people in positions to do certain aspects of the job.
Right.
I don't really see the Cowboys winning with him as an owner because he just wants it to be so much about him that I think it just hurts the team in the long. Like he has his own radio show and stuff. It's like what other owner has that? I honestly don't know of any other ones that do. They may do a little spot here or there for the radio just to be like,
Yeah,
oh yeah,
like to give
whatever.
a
Yeah,
to like give a statement or
yeah,
whatever.
to connect with the fans and all that. But the man has his own radio show, and it's like, okay, whatever. But I mean, your question was about not asking LeBron. It's easy for the media to ask LeBron about Kyrie because we know about their history together.
Right,
They
right, right.
were teammates in Cleveland.
Well,
Kyrie
didn't
got.
LeBron have ties with like he was a Cowboys fan and like
I was
what
just
he
about to
was.
say, LeBron's documented as a
That's
Cowboys
why
fan.
I'm
We've seen him at
that's why
games
I'm
with the
surprised
hat.
that they didn't ask the question.
Well, I don't think people look at because LeBron's fandom. It's like all over the place. It's like
Yeah, Ohio State. Well, obviously he's from Ohio, so
Ohio
Ohio
State. I think
State.
he's a Duke fan. He's when the
Yeah,
Indians
he
at that
wasn't there.
time won
Yeah.
the World Series, he was a fan of them, but he's a Yankees fan. It's just like, all right, yeah, he's kind of like Drake, where it's like Drake's a fan of like a bunch of
Toronto.
teams when
That
they're like
rapper.
doing really well, and then when they're not doing well, Drake's like popping up as a fan of somebody else, and it's like, bro, who are you a fan of? So I think because of that, they probably weren't thinking like off the top of their head, like, oh wait, LeBron's a Cowboys fan. Let's ask him because LeBron's fandom, like I said, is all over the place. But the Kyrie thing was just obvious. They were teammates. Then they had that breakup where Kyrie was like, he wanted to be a leader and get out from underneath LeBron. So it was easy to ask him that. The Jerry Jones situation, I would quicker ask Dak Prescott or Michael Parsons or one of those guys than ask LeBron. So I just think that's what it is. NBA media versus NFL media. I bet if LeBron went to uh, like a Rams game and a reporter saw him, they might have asked him about Jerry Jones because he was at a football game.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we're reaching the 2 hour mark. So do you have any like final thoughts for tonight? What we talked about or anything that you on your mind you wanna.
No, I mean, really good show, really good
No, for
conversation. I
sure,
feel
for
like the
sure.
whole, Jerry Jones, LeBron thing, Kyrie, and all that. I feel like that's a conversation that a lot of people are probably having, and there's plenty of viewpoints on it. You know, my whole thing has been when it comes to athletes or owners or anybody who's connected with sports in general, it's like you have a much bigger platform than Jordan, you or I have,
Yeah.
and with the way that the world is today, use the platform to try to unite people, spread love and all that kind of stuff. It's like all this divisive stuff that's going on, whether politics, which we don't really do on here, but it's like
Right, right.
that's such a big part of what's going on in the world today that it's just like it's one thing 60 something years ago with Jerry Jones and how the climate of the world was back then, but it's like fast forwarding to now and it's like has progress been made? Yes, but it's like we should be much further along than we
We
are
should, yeah.
at
We
this
should
point.
be.
And
We should be. Yep.
but as I also said throughout this episode, it's like I feel like as the younger generation continues to get older and older and the way that they're brought up and the world that they're brought up in, maybe it's naive of me to think that I think the relations between races can only get better because we're seeing so much, whether it's interracial or just even looking politically. Younger people usually don't align themselves with people who are bigots and hate speech. Now some do, but I think they're in the minority. So
Mm-hmm.
the future, at least to me, I like I said, I hope that the future is brighter. But it's just that we should be better off right now than we are.
No, it's like you kind of said everything right. Like he like I mean, 60, like I said, 65, 50 years seems long. But if you think about it on a wider spectrum, 65 years is not that long ago. I mean,
Yeah.
of that happening. So, I mean, like you said, we should be. And you bring up a good point. That's like how young people are starting to get educated. And that's another topic that we can get to, like in another episode or another podcast show. Is like, well, I don't know because it's more education, but like me growing up in the high school, middle school curriculum. I mean, when talked about race and stuff, like I didn't really know about Ruby Bridges. I don't really know about I mean, I roughly touched surface on Rosa Parks because like she was a prominent figure in civil rights of Martin Luther King. But that had to do with with education too. I mean, with the younger people come up in the educational system, I feel like young people are getting more educated. Whereas, like you said, like I feel like the younger people are kind of separating of in the high school age, like maybe freshman college year age, like they're trying to like realize that hey, who's racist, who's not. So they're trying to figure that out. Like you said, perfectly. And I mean, we should be in a perfect world better. We've seen small progress. I know for me, it takes a village for everything to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I know some people have different views. You might have different views on some things. I might have different views on certain things.
We can at least respect.
Yeah, respect. Yeah,
views. Or
exactly.
That's another thing where today it's like certain people, if you think a certain way,
it's like they're biased.
What they want to do is they just want to beat you down over it and come back at you with like hate speech to try to make you feel bad. It's like no, it's like we're grown people.
Right.
We can be adults about it. If you think the sky's blue, but I think it's green, I don't have to sit here and make you think you're an idiot for thinking it's blue. I could be like, so why do you think it's blue? And have a healthy conversation out of it.
Right. I mean, for all I know, you can be colorblind. For all I know, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Like we both make good points. I mean, I think that we should be in a good spot when it comes to like race. But like LeBron James and other prominent figures that had those platforms, they should really like push and get the younger people out there. I mean, just not sports. Like you just like push them out to the polls, get other people in position that that are minorities out there. Female politicians, get more diverse people out there to make the decisions for us.
I love when the NBA said we're not playing any games on election day. Make the focus on I thought that was a great move by Adam Silver, and I'm sure it probably rubbed some people the wrong way, but it's like, hey, it is what it is. Voting is an important issue. It's something that we've seen that some people are trying to take it away from people or whatever. Whatever you want to say about that, but it's just like that's where we can make our voice heard about who represents us and all that. So I thought the NBA making that a focus for them was a really big deal.
No, I definitely agree. So I guess I'll end the show. Like I said many times at the end of the show, you can follow the JJ Sports Talk Show or the Sports Talk on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. The live stream is on Facebook Live and YouTube. And I mean, you can also catch me on the Sports Empire Network with my boy Kyle Edwards and Dylan Reed on the B3 podcast. But I definitely want to push more episodes out, since school is winding down. So I definitely want to put more episodes, maybe like twice weekly. So get more content out there. But I mean, I think this was a good episode. And you just want to plug in your information, plug in your podcasts and everything so people can follow you.
Yeah. So like Jordan said, Tuesday night, Sports Empire Network, Big Three podcast with he and Dylan. I do pre-gaming pigskin Thursday nights with Gene and Godfrey. I have my own podcast, which is Chomping at the Bit You can find that, well, at least the video version on my YouTube channel, which is chomping at the bit as well. But also the audio versions available wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search chomping at the bit. Trying to see what else. Oh, I have, I do YouTube Shorts, but that's still on the YouTube channel. And I'm starting to get into TikTok. Gotta be honest with you, I'm probably late to that whole.
Yeah,
thing,
I've seen a couple of TikToks of you like like you have the list of teams that are, and then you say which team is gonna be like
yeah,
like you copy my idea of pretenders or contenders, man.
yeah. I'm just trying to think of ways to because TikTok being such a short video form, like I'm still trying to come up with some ways to have some fun on there, but hasn't been too bad. It's definitely something different. You reach a different audience. But yeah, I'm on TikTok at Chompin' Podcast, the same Twitter and all that. So, if you want to find me, I'm kind of everywhere. So, yeah, look me up.
Yeah, well, that concludes this week's episode. I guess the next time you'll catch us is on Tuesday, but hopefully our next episode will be celebrating a USA win tomorrow. By the time we get back on the podcast, so go USA!
Yes.
It's going to be an early game, 10 a.m. I know I'm going to set my alarm. I usually have my alarm at 6 a.m., but I might sleep in a little bit. But go USA! And we are out.
All right.